Hey everybody, it's Kirsten with Talk Travel Eat, and today I'm going to give you my 3 best tips on the answer to the question of where should we live. I get asked this question a lot, and I also read this question being asked a lot on online forums, and we know all of the typical answers. Oh, it depends on the lifestyle you want. It depends on your budget. But I think there are other things that you should ask yourself, and I'm going to try to frame those into 3 areas for you. And those 3 areas are: first, number 1, know yourself. Number 2 is everything is not as it seems. And number 3 is don't settle. Okay, so for number 1, know yourself. As a nurse, when I'd meet a new patient after introducing myself, I'd basically let the patient know that yes, I was there to take care of them, but I also would rely on their expertise about themselves. They know themselves best. As a medical team, we can give them all of the recommendations for what we believe is best for their disease, condition, what treatment, but really how they're going to respond, what their thoughts are, what their life experiences have been, all of that goes into play in how well a patient will do or respond to treatment. And I just think it's important for the patient to be involved in their care, just like it's important for you to really know yourself and what is going to make or break this move abroad for you. For Mark and I, we know based on our previous moves, all the places that we live, we knew that we wanted a life that was easy and without hassle. Why would we move somewhere if it was going to create more hassle or inconvenience? We knew that we had to have that convenience in our everyday lives. We also know that I am someone who has a ton of patience, and we both really have no problem with going with the flow, so we knew those attributes would serve us well on our move abroad here to Portugal. So what I put out to you is, what are the things in your life or the things in your personality, the things that might be challenges when moving abroad, or the things that you have in your toolkit already that is going to make your transition easier. I just think that's a really important thing, and if you know yourself and know your mindset, you're already ahead of the game, because you really need to be realistic about that and how you are going to react to a big transition like this. So the second area I want to talk about, I'm calling it everything is not as it seems. And adding on to that, I would say come check things out for yourself. Now, I know it's difficult to come over, find an apartment or buy a home, whatever you're planning to do, and then go back and apply for the visa. I know there are people that have the means to do that, but I would say the majority of people do not. That would have put a strain on us, quite frankly. But things have changed so much in the last year that if you can figure out a way to do that, I certainly think it would be worth the expense. And I just say that because things have changed so much. And I'll give you a couple of examples. The first is when we were looking for our apartment here in Lisbon. Now, before we even moved to Portugal, I had researched Lisbon a little bit, and I thought, yeah, we could really do that. And I reached out to a realtor who was well known in a lot of the online forums, and she basically told me that our budget for Lisbon was too low. And so After hearing that from her, she is an expert in the field, didn't even bother looking in Lisbon and just went ahead and found a place in Porto. Now, if I would have looked a little bit more deeply or just not necessarily taken one person's word for it, maybe we would have lived in Lisbon from the start. I don't know. So again, you're gonna get a lot of variety here, and if you can come check things out for yourself, I would do it. The third point I want to talk about is don't settle. You hear people all the time talk about, oh, just find a place to get over here. Once you get over here, then you can find your forever home. And I feel like that may have been true a year ago. In fact, when we were applying for our visa, it was just the beginning of the period where a 1-year lease was recommended, but not necessarily required. But we went ahead and got a 1-year contract from an alojamento local company, Feel Porto. And the way the contract worked, it was for a year's term, but it was basically a month-to-month renewable every month agreement. So we could cancel at any time 30 days notice. The rules have changed since then, and I can tell you the market has changed quite drastically since then as well. The apartment we were renting in Porto was just a really cute apartment, 2-bedroom, 1.5 bath, and for the contract term, our monthly rent was €890. And this was a great deal. It was on the tail end of lockdown pandemic. We knew it was a good deal for the apartment. I've kind of kept tabs on the apartment over the months since we left. Even the month that we left, it was relisted for $1,090, and since that time it has gone up pretty much every few months. Like I said, it was $10.90 when we left, $13.90 over the winter. When I checked it at the beginning of spring, it was listed for either €17.90 or €1,890. And I went on to check today in June, and I know it's the high season, but that same apartment we rented for €890 a month is now listed for €2,490 a month. $2,490. I mean, that just let that settle in a little bit. That's part of the reason why we moved from Porto to Lisbon. Again, I digress. So my point is the market is different now than it was a year ago, and also the visa rules are different now than they were a year ago, and they may change again in the future. So the idea of just getting something to get over here, it might cost you a lot more in the long run, because number one, sure, you have a place for that first year, but what's going to happen after the year? What if the prices go up exponentially, like this alojamento local, and you can't afford to live where you're living or have trouble finding something in your price range because the prices have changed so much? So again, there's the idea of finding what you really want and trying to lock in that lease, that 3-year lease from the beginning. I just think it would be difficult to live somewhere that you wind up being unhappy for a year while you're looking around for the place that you really want to be. I mean, when you think about Portugal, it's an entire country, okay? Even if you just think about Lisbon or Porto or Lera or Caldas da Rainha, like all these cities, within the cities, there are different neighborhoods themselves. So really, I mean, if you're not here on the scene, how are you going to know? Think about your home city, where you're living right now. There's probably a ton of neighborhoods in your city, regardless of how big or small, and there's probably some you just wouldn't want to live in for whatever reason. It's the same thing here. And I feel like if you have to end up somewhere you don't end up liking or don't want to be for a year, it's just going to make that year miserable. And just speaking from experience, when we lived in North Carolina, we lived in a beautiful house on a beautiful block, but the experience was not beautiful, and it just didn't matter how nice our house was, we were miserable. So that's where I'm going with this don't settle. I just feel like in the long run, sure, a year is not a long time, but there are a lot of variables, and if you can, you know, kind of cut your losses from the beginning and really find where you think you'll want to live, I just think it'll work out better in the long run. But again, our experience was not that. But if we had to do it again, if we were moving at this time, I think we would really take the care and find the place where we wanted to be, because things change just too much too quickly. So that's it. Those are my tips. Know yourself. Everything is not as it seems. Come take a look if you can. And really don't settle. I think that don't settle gets swept over quite a bit. Transitioning to a new culture, a new language, a new way of life, no more of our instant gratification lifestyle if you're moving from the United States. It's a lot to deal with. The last thing you want to deal with is not loving where you live. People say you don't have to find your forever home, but if you find, you know, a home of convenience from the start, or whatever your must-have is, you might realize that some of the things you want or need in your forever home were just things that at the end of the day aren't as important as maybe you made them in your previous life. Just saying. When you get over here, things are different. So keep that in mind. As always, thanks for watching. Let me know what you think of this video. I always enjoy your comments. If you like the video, please hit the like button. If you haven't subscribed to my channel and you're still watching, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I'd sure appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video.